good afternoon, wherever you are in the world listening in. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Product Safety and Integrity Roundtable, the Foundation for Brand Protection. My name's Amy. I'm a member of the marketing team at Perry Johnson Registrar's Food Safety, Inc., and I'll be helping to facilitate today's session. We're really excited to be welcoming a couple of guests for today's webinar, and we'll be introducing them to you later in the presentation. Just before we get started, there's a few housekeeping notes I want to take care of. To ensure audio quality, all attendees on the call are muted, but we do absolutely want to take any questions you might have. So if you think of anything that you would like some clarification on, or maybe you want a specific example of something, you can go ahead and open up the questions tab on the GoToWebinar control panel on your screen, type that question in and submit it. We will take as many of them at the end of the presentation as we can fit if time allows. And the number one question we usually get has to do with the availability of slides or a recording of the session in case you joined late or you'd like to share it with someone else in your organization. And the answer to that is yes, we do offer the slides as well as a recording via our website at www.pjrfsi.com. And those are usually available within 24 to 48 hours after the presentation has completed. So this is just an example of where you might find that questions tab. It might look different on your computer, but no worries, they all work the same. Just go ahead and type those questions in. You don't have to wait till the end. So as you think of anything you'd like to learn more about, go ahead and drop those in for us to answer later. Now, before we get started with our first speaker, I did want to pose a quick polling question to you all, just to get an idea for who all is on the call today. These polling responses are anonymous, so feel free to answer as you see fit. And the first question has to do what your role in supply chain might be. So just choose whatever response suits you best, what matches up best with your position in your organization, and we'll see who all is on the line today. Again, for the people joining us a little bit late, we do have the possibility to answer questions live at the end of the session, so send those in as you think of them. No need to wait until the end. All right, and it looks like we've got almost 50% participation, so we'll look for a few more votes before we move along. Thank you to everyone who's responded so far. All right, and it looks like we're mostly joined today by packers and shippers and then some consultant and retailer food service employees. So that's great to see some diversity in the call. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker of the day. That is our very own Paul Demarin. He is the Senior Vice President of Food Safety and Supply Chain here at PJRFSI. Paul joined us back in January and has over 35 years of experience in the hospitality, service, and retail agri-food sectors. Before he came to PJRFSI, Paul worked for 15 years in the certification industry with clients in pretty much every sector, from food safety and supply chain to brand protection, quality, automotive, aerospace, medical, and IT requirements. Before he worked in the certification industry, Paul was a professional chef and a consultant for over 20 years in major hotel chains, restaurants, private golf courses, and food service organization. So without further ado, Paul, you can go ahead and take it away when you're ready.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. And also thank you everyone very much for taking the time to attend our sessions today. We all really appreciate your time. So as Amy mentioned, my name's Paul, and I'm going to refer to us today as FSI because Perry Johnson Registrar's Food Safety Inc. is a bit of a mouthful. So I'm very thrilled today for today's session that we're hosting. It's an executive roundtable discussion on how to create brand equity and production sustainability through developing strong quality, integrity, and regulatory frameworks. This is our second session, or volume 2 we're calling it. And the session today is to discuss programs that support the sustainable growth with both short and long-term return on investment as a part of that. And in the discussion today, we're going to be talking about the importance of engaging with the right people at the right time and how integrating quality and safety in your operation and business decisions can help increase speed to market for you while reducing time and resources. So just before that's our agenda there. Just before we do that, I just want to talk for about 2 minutes about who we are as a company. We were founded in 1994 by Perry Johnson. We achieved various accreditations over the years, starting in 1995. As you can see, we expanded quite aggressively globally, all over the world in places like Germany and Asia Pacific, all across the Americas. We have several different companies as a part of our family of companies. We have PJR, which is our management system certification body. So think quality, environmental, health and safety, aerospace, etc. PJRFSI was founded in 2012 as a result for demand of certification in the industry for a whole plethora of standards, everything from HACCP to GFSI, social accountability, FDA audits, and even CTPAT, cannabis and hemp. We also founded a company in 2005 called PJNA, and that is a healthcare technology company that specializes in medical coding, telemedicine, transcription, etc. So we basically break out our services into 4 key areas. We have auditing and certification services to globally recognized and accredited programs such as GFSI for the food side of the house and ISO for the management system side of the house. We have second party auditing, which are standards that are unaccredited, but are standards we as the certification body have written and developed. Those would be ones like HACCP, GMP for good manufacturing practices or good distribution or packaging. We also do first party audits, which are standards that our customer has written and developed, and they want us to conduct those audits for them around the world. We're conducting audits in about 60 countries right now around the world. We have about 500 auditors globally, and we're headquartered in Troy, Michigan. So that's it for me for this part. I want to leave as much time as possible for our speakers. So Amy, I'll just pass it back to you for a moment.
Great, thanks, Paul. As Paul mentioned, we've got another polling question. So this one has to do with what kind of stance your organization takes on product safety and compliance. Just choose whatever answer suits your thoughts best. You know, maybe it's a cost of doing business, or maybe it's seen as an opportunity to grow and build brand equity. We've had some people join us since we got started, so just going to mention again, if you have any questions or commentary that comes to you during this discussion that we're about to have, please go ahead and drop that right in the questions tab. We'll be happy to take as many of those as we can at the end. All right, I'd like to see at least 50% voting on the poll, so get those votes in so we can move right along and introduce our panel for the day. All right, thank you to everyone who voted. And that's how those numbers broke out. So it's great to see that most people think that it's an opportunity to grow and build brand equity, but it is a great tool for risk management as well. All right, so Paul, I'll hand it right back to you and you can go ahead and introduce our panel for the day.
Great, thanks, Amy. And that's some very interesting results there, and I think is going to play nicely into our talk today. So it's my pleasure to introduce 4 key executives from our industry who are all very well known and will be sharing their expertise and knowledge with us today. So let me start by making some introductions. I'd like to start with introducing Nishat Sufi. She's the president and founder of JIT Experts Hive, with a mission to connect innovation and knowledge and help CPG companies thrive by providing just-in-time and hands-on expertise. Nishat comes with more than 25 years of experience in the CPG industry with a diverse and successful career, working at startups to some of the top Fortune 500 companies like Brandless, Target, Cargill, Smuckers, and Pillsbury. She has a proven track record of delivering end-to-end expertise in a broad range of consumer product categories, including food, beverage, supplements, CBD, pet, cosmetics, beauty, and personal care, and many other household product categories. We'll also be welcoming today Peter Begg, who I've known for many years, and Peter is the Vice President of Quality and Food Safety for Glanbia Nutritionals. He oversees all aspects of quality and food safety across the company. That includes risk management, regulatory and food safety conformity, and product compliance. And prior to Glanbia, Peter was the Senior Director of Global Supply Chain Quality for Mondelez International. Before that, the Director of Quality for Kraft. Throughout Peter's 26-year career, he's worked in a variety of business roles, including engineering, R&D, and quality. And he also represented Mondelez International on the GFSI Board of Directors from 2012 to 2017. Then we move along to Rita Katona, and she is the Chief Brand and Innovation Officer, overseeing all aspects of marketing and product research and development. Rita is the advocate for and the voice of the customer inside the company. She's very passionate about supporting consumers' health and delicious and convenient products. Rita has a background of 12 years in corporate retail, previously leading merchandising global sourcing efforts at Target, HSN, which is the Home Shopping Network. And then finally, but certainly not last, is Eric Hall, who's the CEO of So Good, So You. And as a lifelong entrepreneur, having started 5 other companies prior to So Good, So You, Eric's the master problem solver in the company, who's been leading the company's quality and food safety initiative since its inception in 2014. His top-down commitment has ensured that product and worker safety has been at the forefront of decisions in a hyper-growth company. So again, thank you to all of our speakers for joining us here. And at this point, to start this off, Peter, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind just to give us a quick overview of Glanbia.
Sure, Paul. Happy to do so. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're at. As Paul mentioned, I joined Glanbia about 3 years ago, and Glanbia is a PLC that's based in Ireland. It's a holding company that has 3 major business units: Glanbia Performance Nutrition, Glanbia Ireland, and Glanbia Nutritionals, of which I am responsible for quality and food safety. And overall, the total revenue of the group is about $5 billion across the 3 business units, and Glanbia Nutritionals is the largest. In 2019, we did approximately $2.5 billion in revenue across 2 major businesses. We have a large dairy business, cheese and whey protein. We're the largest cheddar cheese producer in the United States. We have the largest cheese facility in the United States in Clovis, New Mexico, Southwest Cheese, where we process 15 million pounds of milk a day. So it's quite a large operation. We also have what we call our specialty business. And this is things like nutritional premixes, so vitamins and minerals, premixes that go into a lot of the products you're familiar with. We have a grains business that sells specialty grains such as flax and chia. And then we have a aseptic beverage co-manufacturing business in California. So you can see a little bit more about the various businesses across the portfolio of brands. Glanbia Performance Nutrition, if you're someone who's into weightlifting, bodybuilding, et cetera, you might recognize some of those brands such as Optimum Nutrition, BSN, Isopure. We also purchased the Think Thin business. I think it was about 3 years ago, and then recently, and it's not even on the slide, we purchased the Slim Fast business. So Slim Fast was added to our portfolio. You can see on the nutritional side the various types of products we sell, and again, you know, we have about 14 production locations. We're building our 15th right now in Michigan. We're building a cheese facility in St. John's, north of Lansing. We have 26 sales offices around the world and a number of distribution innovation centers. So happy to be here today, Paul, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Nishat.
That's great. Thank you very much, Peter. Nishat, then the same for you, if you wouldn't mind. Just give us a little overview. I know you have a unique value proposition, Nishat, and I think that's going to be important to some of the companies on the call today. So at this point, I'll pass it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Paul, for your nice introduction and for setting up this webinar. It's such a great pleasure to be part of this roundtable with you, Rita, Eric, and Peter. Since I've been in the volume 1 of this webinar 2 weeks ago, and many of the audience might be the same, I will shorten the introduction. As you mentioned, I've worked in consumer products industry, primarily in food, but also in personal care and beauty. And in different size companies, from startups to global corporations, supply chain, manufacturing, retail, and e-commerce. And throughout those years, regardless of the size and the type of the industry, I found that as a company grows, as you know, their needs change, whether it's a new market, a new product type, category, they would need different expertise at different times. In many cases, if this is a long-term need and the company can afford it, they hire, otherwise they would look for a consultant or third party to help them, which is great. However, what I've seen as a common challenge in many companies was when you needed the expertise, finding experts who were hands-on, who've been there, done that, knew the challenges in and out of the business, and could provide practical solutions, and programs were not easy. And the second challenge was if you needed an expert or multiple experts to come into, like you were launching, let's say, a new product, and you needed somebody to help with product development, somebody to help with like maybe your claim substantiations, to bring them at the right time in your product development or commercialization process, and integrate their efforts together and with the rest of the team. And your process was not always easy. So, and it was not just in small companies. When I was working at larger corporations like Target and Cargill, where there was a need for expertise that we didn't have in-house, finding the hands-on experts when we needed them were not easy. And a lot of time you ended up hiring big firms with consultants that most of the time they were not really hands-on and experienced and couldn't provide that practical programs and solutions that you needed. So what I saw over the years, I saw a gap, and I also saw a lot of experts that for many reasons wanted to be independent, whether it were semi-retired or in transition or just wanted to be self-employed. There were a lot of experts and a lot of knowledge, and they didn't know how to connect with the companies. So that was how the idea of JIT Experts Hive, or Just-in-Time Experts Hive, came into fruition. And our mission is to bring like-minded companies and experts in consumer products industry together. We are a network of hands-on consumer product experts, work with companies regardless of their size, large or small, that want to be agile and innovative. And we have expertise in a broad range of different product categories, from food and beverage to supplements, CBD, pet, cosmetic, and many household categories. Our services expand a broad range of expertise, from product development to project management, to developing processes such as PD&D and commercialization processes, product quality, safety, claim substantiation, to supply chain sustainability and responsible sourcing. So our purpose is truly to activate and accelerate growth in consumer products industry by connecting innovation and knowledge, and create a win-win situation for both the experts and the companies. So that's who JIT Experts Hive is. And again, thank you, Paul and Amy, for setting up this roundtable. And I will hand it over to Rita and Eric to introduce themselves and their companies. So good, so you.
That's good. Thank you very much, Nishad. And yes, now over to Rita and Eric. I really love your products. I know they're organic, they're non-GMO based probiotic shots, and I've seen them in many stores. I believe you currently have them in about 4,000 stores. But congratulations on such a great brand, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Paul. That's really kind of you to say. So Rita Katona and Eric Hall here on behalf of So Good So You. We are a husband and wife co-founder team leading this company, and we established the company a little over 6 years ago in 2014, and we are one of the few and the proud food brands that actually make the products and not just market the products. So we own and operate our own manufacturing facility here in Minneapolis. Currently, we are sold in over 47 states and over 4,600 locations, grocery stores, natural channel, etc. And very excited to share that in August, we were named in the top 20% of fastest growing companies by Inc. magazine and the Inc. 5000. And currently we are just over 40 team members, and we are hiring for several roles in sales and marketing. So I'm happy to say that despite a very challenging time in our country right now, our company is thriving and growing. More importantly, we are all about people and planet. Our tagline is for the love of body and planet, and so those two things are at the heart of everything that we do as a company. And how that breaks down is key commitments to sustainability, and initiatives around environmental sustainability. So all of our products are produced with 100% renewable energy. Our facility is run by wind energy. It is considered a zero waste manufacturing facility, so we divert over 94% of the waste that comes out of the facility away from landfills through composting and recycling programs. And we are proud to have introduced just a few months ago an industry first packaging solution that we called the Better Bottle, which features an accelerated landfill biodegradability material, which means that this material breaks down to water, soil, and carbon-based gases in a commercial landfill environment and requires no change in consumer behavior, but optimizes the end of life for our primary product package. We are a female-founded and majority female-owned business. I am the board chair as well. And our diversity and inclusion metrics we share just because one of our pillars is radical transparency. And so 74% female workforce and 46% minority BIPOC workforce as well. With that, I'll pass it back to Amy. I think we're ready for another polling question.
Yeah, that's right, Rita. We've got one more polling question before we get to that full discussion. So let's quickly just go through that. All right, and that question is about maybe some roadblocks that our attendees might have found implementing product safety and compliance programs. So just choose whatever response suits your situation best. We'll hopefully see at least 50% response before we move along. And just another reminder, let me check and see if we haven't gotten any big questions in yet, but I'm hoping we'll see some good conversation as the roundtable commences regarding, the topics that our attendees want to learn more about. All right, it looks like thanks for all those votes coming in there on the poll. All right, there we go. It looks like a fair mix of responses, so a little bit of everything. All right. And I think we're ready to hand things back over to Paul. So Paul, go ahead and take us away on our main focus of the session.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. Okay, and thanks everyone for responding. No more polling questions now. So now we're going to get started with the roundtable, portion of the discussion here. Product safety, brand equity, brand credibility, integrity, sustainability. Every one of these topics is extremely important and top of mind in our business and world today, maybe now more than ever, and gaining executive leadership support of this is no small task, as we just saw on some of the polling questions. So Nishad, I'd like to start with you, if you don't mind. What would be your advice for product safety and integrity experts or leaders on how to better engage with leadership and gain support?
Yes, actually, I'm very happy to see the results and see the lack of management support is at 0%. But then, we are still dealing with lack of resources and lack of budget, which is about the decision making and competing priorities that our leaders and management are faced in day in, day out. In the last webinar, we talked about business leaders' decisions, like most people are more impacted by positive results versus fear of negative consequences. So if there are two competing projects, one that is going to grow the business and bring more revenue and customers, and there is another one that is more about preventing something bad from happening, chances are they are going to lean more toward the one with the positive business results. So the importance of looking at our programs, which are mostly risk prevention programs in product safety and quality and integrity, and taking a deep look and see what additional values they could bring to the table and communicating those values on top of the preventing of the risk. So I'm not going to get deep into that since we talked about it, but please look at the programs, processes, and systems you have or plan to implement and think about what additional applications or benefits are embedded in them. I guarantee that you would find a business and brand differentiation opportunity in many of the work you're already doing for product safety and brand reputation. Last time I mentioned a couple of examples, such as elevating our traceability programs to transparency, which is a hot trend, and in my mind, staying one, or elevating our supplier compliance program into responsible sourcing by adding a few additional elements, and again, a differentiation point in the market. And so take a look at that from that aspect and try to see what direct value to the business growth we can bring. And then it makes it a very compelling message to get the budget that you want, the resources you want. Another very important lesson that I've learned over years is the importance of concise and clear communication when engaging with executives and business partners. With all due respects, many business leaders have short attention spans, and I don't mean Rita and Eric. Most people with science background, at the other hand, like myself, have a tendency to get into too much detail. And this can be a bad combination because we lose and sometimes frustrate our audience. A few years ago, I was part of a cross-industry best practice sharing committee, and I learned about a tool that was used by Mayo Clinic to enhance communications for doctors and nurses that, like us in product safety and quality and science people, are very detail oriented. It's called SBAR and was used to allow for important information to be transferred accurately but very quickly. SBAR stands for Situation, Background, Assessment, and Recommendation, and was first developed by military, where, as you can imagine, being able to have explicit statement of what is required, how urgent it is, what actions need to be taken, it can be a matter of life or death. So when I saw how it was used in Mayo Clinic, I thought it would have a great application for people like us and for my team and stuff. And so I brought it back. I adjusted it to be applicable to our situations, and then started using it and trained my team. And I can't tell you how effective this tool was, because we could explain a situation, provide the necessary background, our assessment, and our recommendation in 1 to 2 minutes, and that was in a very concise and clear manner. So it truly enhanced the effectiveness of our team in working internally and externally, and also it's improved our ability to engage with our executives and management and get the resources and other supports we needed. You can find a lot of information about this SBAR tool on the internet. Most of them are geared toward healthcare industry, but if you're interested, I can share the tool that I have customized for product safety and quality with you guys. Text me or email me and I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much, Nishat. That's a wonderful, wonderful answer. I appreciate it. So Peter, over to you. You're a global manufacturer. Where do you even start to drive your quality and food safety program, and who do you typically engage with?
Well, thanks, Paul. I think that, quality and food safety is not just the responsibility of the quality department. It's every function in the organization, from how you design products in R&D, how you market products, as well as then obviously the execution, the purchasing, the raw materials, et cetera. So, for us at Glanbia, it really starts with the suppliers, because we have to make sure that the quality and safety of our materials is strong, because then we are, as an ingredient manufacturer, our customers are relying that we're providing safe, high quality product day in and day out. And so, we have a really strong supplier quality program focused on, obviously we do audits, but we also have a food safety assessment form that we ask our key suppliers to fill out. We require a GFSI certification. If we're not able to audit, we want our suppliers to be certified against one of the the major food safety certifications that are out there. And again, to me, you have to look at across the supply chain. So there's a chart I use in previous presentations where it really shows every part of the supply chain where quality and food safety touches, and it is true. All the way from sales, when you're dealing with the customer, and whether it's you get a complaint on a delivery, a pallet's damaged, something like that, or all the way back to the suppliers of your suppliers. And I joke that we have 100,000 suppliers in New Mexico to make that much milk on a daily basis, and our farmers are just as important as the person making a salt that goes into one of our formulas. So it really is entail looking across your supply chain and making sure that you have programs that address that. I mean, you can look at any of the certification bodies which have really good outlines of what a strong quality management system looks like, but also go to Codex or ISO. And again, if you're looking at a starting place, that's where I would begin. But the other advice I would give is don't try and do everything at once. Start with what's the most impactful, and that typically is in your own manufacturing shop and with your suppliers, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's great input. Thank you, Peter. Nishat, just back to you quickly then. What would you think are some of your biggest challenges when leading product safety and integrity programs? Because I'm sure in your career you've had to deal with quality and safety issues and incidents. In spite of programs that maybe you or your team put in place, accidents still happen. And at the same time, you wouldn't want to lose your credibility with management and leaders.
Yes. You're right. No matter how robust our programs, accidents can still happen. The key is to make sure that it's an isolated accident, excuse me, and it's not the result of systematic failure in our programs. In product safety, like any other risk management approach, we identify risk, assess their severity and probability, implement mitigation plans, and as Peter mentioned, we can't boil the ocean. We need to prioritize and get the highest risk done, and then come down the risk pool and develop risk mitigation programs, HACCP, allergen programs, sanitation, supplier quality programs to reduce the possibility of risk significantly. The key word is reduce or mitigate. So, and to ensure that we set up the expectation right in the organization, that we are not there to, we call it prevent, and I think it's a little bit misleading because prevent seems to be an absolute, where we need to talk about mitigation of the risk. So clearly communicate with your business partners and leaders what your job is, and that we are mitigating the risk. Secondly is having the right amount of due diligence. Again, you don't want an accident that shows you have systematic failure in your programs. That's where your credibility and integrity of you and your team goes under big question mark. Check the programs, check your programs, make sure they're adequate, they're followed and being followed out, and that and as an accident happens, check to see if it's an isolated one or a systematic failure. An example is, I see that there are quite a few people here in food service. Let's say in some of these food chain restaurants or fast food restaurants, you have great cleaning programs, personal hygiene training, and everything is in place. Yet there's one worker that might not wash their hand, cause, let's say, God forbid, E. coli contamination. The chances is that it's going to be limited to that location, to that shift, and hopefully it's a contained incident. Whereas if you see it happening in few of your branches and all over the place, as we saw, like in case of Chipotle a few years ago, that there was quite a few food safety incidents across different locations and states and stuff like that. That points to systematic failure, and the investigations that came up afterwards started to point out to many problems in different programs, from their sourcing to sick leave policy to training and scheduling and so on. So my advice is, one, be clear in your communication internally that what your job is as risk managers, and set the expectation right. Check the adequacy of your programs, make sure that they are followed. And so if anything happens, it's not because your programs are not sufficient. However, even if it was a result of a gap in the system and something that we have overlooked, remember, we are all humans. Incidents happen. But how we respond to it is what impacts our integrity and credibility. So follow the rules of crisis management. Stay calm. Don't become defensive. Don't try to make excuses. Stay away from finger pointing and blaming game in the middle of the crisis. Stay away from it totally, but don't do it in the middle of the crisis. If you have a crisis management or recall management checklist, this is the time to use it. If it's not a recall or a major crisis, still use it. And if you don't have it, develop one today. Assess the situation and then make the first decisions first. One is stop the damage to consumer health and safety. So if there's an imminent risk, what action you need to take to stop it, pull the product, stop production, whatever it takes. Second is to how to stop or prevent brand reputation. Bring your team, legal advisor, communication team. And then once you have the damage control underway, do the root cause analysis and come up with your preventative methods. Don't do it alone. Leverage your team, your business partners, because time is of an essence, and getting the information and getting your assessment done quickly and putting controls in place is critical. And communication in the middle of a crisis is also important, so all the stakeholders know what's happening, but also what's expected of them. And then keep emotions out, state facts, provide your professional assessment, and recommend course of action. Yes, incidents can and will happen, but by staying professional and calm, you can turn doubts about your programs and yourself into a situation that showcases your ability to manage in the middle of the crisis and bring back that confidence and trust in your capabilities.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nishat. There's so many great points there, and I really appreciate that. So, Rita, I'd like to ask you a two-part question, actually, from a business owner perspective. How have you utilized consultants to educate your team and support your commitment to food safety and quality? And two, as a growing brand, how do you, evaluate ahead of need investments into higher level certifications such as SQF, or BRC?
Sure, thank you, Paul. So first of all, this is an ever-evolving conversation at our company because we're growing so quickly. 6.5 years ago, we didn't exist. So we continue to have these conversations about what's next and how do we level up and kind of see around corners. But ultimately, we have a commitment to becoming or to continuing to be a world-class production facility. And we try to look ahead to see where our needs will be in the coming 3 to 5 years, and then plan to lay a foundation starting today by engaging with relevant third-party consultants that can help us see around corners because they've gone down this path before. So part of our planning process is to goal to have our production operate 2 to 3 times ahead of our current need in any 6-month time frame. And in order to prepare our teams, our management, and our employees that are on the floor for this, we will tap third-party consultants to come in and help create those systems and processes to ensure that we are growing into that successfully and moving through that smoothly. And then to your second question about how we evaluate these ahead of need investments, all of these investments feel ahead of need for us. However, it's less a question of that need. Quality and food safety are table stakes in our opinion, and we feel that you have to have a firm commitment to the highest levels of quality and food safety and take whatever steps you need to do to achieve that in order to offer a product that is safe for consumers and for us to be able to continue to grow the way that we have been.
That's great. Thank you very much, Rita. I'd now like to pose a question for Eric. So Eric, with the pressures of a brand whose business is exploding, and I'm sure there's ongoing challenges to get even larger volumes out the door, how do you as the CEO instill a commitment of quality and food safety into every employee that works for you?
That's a great question. And first of all, I'd like to thank Paul and Amy for hosting this today, and it's a pleasure to join Nishat and Peter. But you're absolutely right. Production's all about numbers and getting things out the door. And so the only way that we've been able to keep our commitment to food safety, and you hear this throughout any organization, it has to be a top-down commitment. But if that is truly important to your company, you need to allocate the time and the resources, which means that you're setting up daily meetings, visual management tools, ongoing training, you pull in external consultants, you use every resource that you can. Because if what you're focused on is the numbers and what's getting out the door, that's what the team's going to be focused on. You also need to make sure that you ensure that each team member is a decision maker. This means that they have the correct tools to do their job, they have authority over what they do, and more importantly, they have the ability to raise food safety concerns immediately. And the last thing, in order to have that, and this is more of a cultural question or thing, but you have to really set up an environment where there's psychological safety, right? This is a culture that supports and encourages and rewards open communication. It recognizes, just as Nishat said, that, hey, there will be concerns, there will be QA issues. It is recommended and great to raise those. And when you combine this psychological safety environment with each person being a decision maker, it allows and empowers each person to proactively make changes that will improve the safety and quality of the product that you put in market. I mean, your team members are absolutely amazing. They come to work every day and they want to make amazing products and they want to be proud of where they work. Give them the control to be part of the solution and you'll be amazed at what happens.
Well, wise words, Eric. Thank you very much. Peter, back to you. As an executive and business leader, I'm sure you are facing competing priorities and have different functions coming to you all the time, whether that's resources asking for money or headcount. What were some of the factors that could potentially impact your decision? Like, for example, a sales or marketing project with a potential quick ROI versus investing in product quality or software without an immediate return. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the battle you face every day. You know, we're not selling product and we're not manufacturing product in the quality and food safety group, but we play an integral role in the organization. And so, you know, I think, you know, quality software is a great example. You know, people are always looking to, you know, as you grow a business, the easiest thing to do, and Eric and Rita face this every day, is, well, just add another resource. But what you really have to do is look for ways to drive efficiency and effectiveness in your business. And so what you really have to do when it comes to something like a longer term investment that doesn't show an immediate return, like with a software, for example, to, let's say, manage supplier quality or manage your quality data that's coming out of your manufacturing facilities, is really to demonstrate, you know, one, case studies. The other is to say, you know what, you know, this is one way of driving additional scale without having to add resources. So you're bringing on additional suppliers without having to add another auditor, or bringing on, you know, additional volume without having to add, you know, a quality technician on the floor, because you have the right tools in place that the operators can utilize to really drive quality and food safety. I really appreciate Eric's comments around empowering your employees. But it's a constant battle, because the company's looking for revenue and profit, and, you know, the easy thing to chase is the proverbial windmill. It's like, oh, I've got a great idea over here. I can sell 100, you know, kgs of this product over here with this profit, or I can invest in a software tool that may take 2 years to get the benefit from. So it's really laying out a vision and a roadmap of how that's going to help you continue to support the organization in ways that improve that efficiency and effectiveness.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. Rita, back to you for a moment. Could you speak to the role of product safety leader? There are you know, many things, I'm sure, when building an effective model, budget, capabilities, priorities. How have you approached this in the past? And could you speak for a moment about the importance of engaging with the right people at the right time, and how to leverage that foundation for creating differentiation in the market?
Absolutely. And I'll start by first saying that this idea of a product safety leader, ultimately, echoing what Eric said, we want to empower every single employee at the company to act as a product safety leader. Anybody who comes in contact with our product, or even if it's customer service, we want them to think about the consumer experience, both from a quality and safety perspective. And this is something similar to how Target trains every employee to be brand managers regardless of their title because they're representing the brand. So just wanted to start by saying how important that is and how that has to come from the top down, and how we remind employees of that daily and sometimes multiple times, that they are empowered to act as such. But ultimately, no aspect of the business is in a vacuum. So we have to think about taking a comprehensive and integrative approach to our strategic planning of evolving on quality and safety. And first and foremost, we look at people and look at how do we evaluate our current team and their level of experience and knowledge, and identify where they are now and where we are going as a company, and where there might be some gaps and what we need to do to close those gaps. And that's one of the areas where we might bring in consultants. We might hire somebody on a permanent basis and add headcount if that's something that is lacking. But first and foremost, we look at the team. Then we look at the structure and lay out where do we need to be in 5 years, and look at the org chart, and again, where are there gaps, where there might be future roles, or where there might be changes in responsibility of existing roles that relate to food safety and quality, and ensure that we are identifying all of the different variables there. And then ultimately we align these facts with the current and future strategic plans to ensure that there's proper budget allocation for headcount, for training programs, for consultants, and for certifications. And as part of the current year strategic plan, as we're doing this, we also want to make sure that there's appropriate planning time allocated for the team to adjust to what the new realities are in their ever-changing environment. And what we've seen is that many times people don't budget. They may budget for the upfront work to get to, let's say, a new certification, but where they may fall short is budgeting for the time and resources they need to maintain that new level of, whether it's paperwork or process and systems. And ultimately, we don't think of these things as just a box that gets checked and then you move on. It's something that is a fundamental change in the way that the business is run and operates, and that takes us to a new level.
Wonderful. That's great. Thank you very much, Rita. Eric, talking a little bit about return on equity or return on credibility, what would you suggest are some of the fundamental components for a person or a company, and what they need to consider for a successful brand like So Good So You?
Well, number one, you need to have products that consumers organically respond to. But taking that business part out of it when it relates to food safety, once you have that consumer connection or business connection, you're building trust. And I love how Nishad and Peter also use this word. It's all about the transparency. So once you have that trust, you need to be able to safeguard it with best in world practices. You have to invest in your team. You have to bring in experts ongoing and support that growth. Once you're at a stage that you can create a QA team, which means day one when you're starting, you have to make sure it's across multiple departments and at all levels, so that when issues arise, you can respond quickly and with transparency. Involve everything with your QA teams. I think Nishat used the phrase, you need to identify, is it isolated or is it systematic? And both of those needs response, but they need a different response. And you need to make certain that your entire team looks at every challenge as an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve.
That's great, Eric. Thank you very much. Peter, you speak about either from a company perspective or Glanbia, whichever you prefer, but how do you sustain a strong quality and food safety program daily to help drive brand protection?
Well, Eric talked about leadership from the top, and I'm a huge believer in that. If employees, there's a lot of talk about food safety culture in the industry, and it's a bit of a buzzword, but there's an element to it that I truly believe is important, and your employees need to hear about food safety and quality, they need to see it and they need to feel it. And hearing about it means that, the executives talk about it, that, the first thing on the agenda isn't always sales or profit, that you talk about, safety and quality. And we've done a really good job in Glanbia of starting a lot of our meetings with our people safety as well as our food safety and quality, especially in the operations function. It's not just about cost. And so I think, it does have to start with those leaders making sure that they're talking about it. When you're at the factory, are people asking questions? Do they ask questions about the quality and food safety, or are they only asking about throughput and profit? I think they need to see it, in terms of the reporting. What are you telling your shareholders are important to you? What are you telling your customers is important to you? And what are you telling your employees? So if all you do in a town hall is put up slides that talk about the throughput and the profit, but never talk about quality and safety, then I don't think that it's going to resonate. We've started to do something. There's a lot of similarities between people safety and food safety, and we've started to do behavior-based quality discussions with our employees. So there's a lot of work done on the personal safety side around behavior-based safety observations. We've taken that and applied it to quality, because I think what you learn and what's been powerful with the discussions with our employees is they want to understand the why behind why we do things. Why do you make me do that metal detector check every 30 minutes? Why do you make me do those burst seal texts? Just helping them to understand the why behind the controls and the quality programs that we have in place goes a long way towards helping them to be, true partners in that journey, as Eric was saying about empowering them. And finally, for me, there's a feel to it. I mean, you can walk into any factory and know right away if it has a strong quality culture, a strong quality, way that they do things in the facility. It starts with, not only the cleanliness of it, does the plant manager come and engage with you on quality, or do they sit in their office? Do the employees show a keen passion for what they're doing? So a lot of elements there, but I do really think it is about with that leadership element, but also really making sure that employees hear, see, and feel that you're talking about quality and food safety in the organization.
It's so key, isn't it, Peter? I mean, everything you were just talking about there of getting your employees engaged and helping them understand the why is so important, and I think it's relevant for every industry and job that's out there, really. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Nishat, you've led many global teams, I know, and further to Peter's response on culture, in the last few years, culture in all its forms has really become a very hot topic. I've also heard from many companies and seen it myself that if you don't have a strong culture, your business could be in real trouble. So what you've seen in your career, how do you suggest a company fixes, enriches, or potentially improves their company culture?
Yeah, culture is such a fundamental element in the success and sustainability of any kind of safety, quality, and overall leadership programs. Both Peter and Eric did such a fantastic job of talking about different elements of what helps, but also demonstrates a strong culture. So I'm not going to get into the psychology of culture, how they're created, impacted. Some say it's top down, some say it's bottom up. In my opinion, it's both. So getting both leaders and workers engaged in developing that culture is critical. I don't want to talk about like big programs. For me, I want to share a few things that I've done in my past, and they worked very well, and they are very simple things to implement. One thing that in any certification, audit program, quality management program, clause 1 is define safety and quality responsibilities, and that's absolutely necessary. Having the right org chart, knowing who is responsible for developing and implementing safety and quality programs. But as Peter mentioned, and I think Eric also, people manage what they are measured on. And if you just leave all this in one function, and then leave all the other functions that actually have more impact on results of product safety and quality out of it, it's going to create the wrong foundation. So all the other departments, production, sourcing, merchandising, supply chain, whoever has impact on product safety and quality need to have roles and responsibilities in regards to that in their job description, but more importantly, into their day-to-day operational metrics. Eric talked a lot about engaging people from different parts of the organization, and Rita talked about each person should be a product safety leader. And I agree 100% with that, and engage the business partners that are going to be impacted by your programs in the development of your programs. So if you're coming up with a sourcing requirement, make sure that the sourcing or merchandising, if you're in retail, are engaged with you so they understand the what and why, but they also know how it's going to impact their business and come up with suggestions to make it better. If you're in manufacturing, I'm pretty sure all of you have your weekly or whatever bi-weekly inspection or plant walks, and most probably you have zones and you have cross-functional teams doing that. It's critical to have this cross-functional approach, and QA shouldn't be the one who finds all the violations and the findings. It should be the cross-functional team. The QA's job should be to train on what to look for and why, and then let them identify the findings, let them explain it, and as a group come up with ways to solve it. It really makes it as part of their DNA. And then keep product quality and safety on top of mind, as Peter said, in the reports, starting the meetings, but also, in day-to-day engagement. These shouldn't be the topics that only come up when someththen bad happens. In one manufacturing plant, we started the food safety bingo, which was, as Peter said, it was our employee safety group has started that. And then we extended to our food safety. Every day that there was no violation or incident, we would draw a number, but if the violation happened, the bingo would go back to 0. And we would print pictures of the violation, whether it was a water hose on the floor or a dirty drain, and then put it on the board and explain why the bingo was canceled and the reason why and how that violation impacted the food safety. And then education and training. What I found very, very powerful was when we trained workers on the line to talk about our program. So if it was allergen program, we had people who were doing parts of that to come and train others and talk about the challenges, like how it was making their job more difficult, and then have a discussion about how it can be become more easier. In retail, when I was at Target, we had safety awareness campaigns. And it was not just in headquarters, in all of our sourcing offices across the world. I had team members there, and we had those campaigns, events, trainings, everything at all the locations. And we also took our partners, whether it was the merchants or our marketing people, in our visits, in our supplier audits, and it was very important. We had programs in some places I work called Safety Ambassador. We empower workers to be our extra ears and eyes and really empowered them. One time we had a big account tour of customers coming to our plant for a potential new account. And one of the workers went to one of these people who were walking and chewing a gum. And I haven't even noticed, and asked them to, take out the gum. And I think we got the account because it showed that people were empowered, they were not afraid. In that, we really lived in the food safety, not just talked about it. And then last but not least, make it fun and celebrate big accomplishments, small accomplishments, reduction in customer complaints, passing audits, getting new accounts. And in whatever event, incorporate some food safety. We had management cookout, and then we had people rate us on how we were doing, cleaning and housekeeping and so on. At Target, in our private label owned brand, we achieved the 100% compliance, GFSI compliance in our supplier and vendor base. We had a huge celebration in all of our locations and offices. And so the topic of culture is very deep, and understanding factors that can positively or negatively impact the product safety and quality mindset is critical. But at the end of the day, it's small but consistent actions that leave a sustainable impact on your employees and on your customers. And we have to remember that actions speak 1,000 words. So we really need to walk the talk.
Thank you very much, Nishat. That was great. We're getting close to the end here, so I do have one final question, and this would be for Rita or Eric. When you started the company So Good So You in the beginning, what made you think about needing product safety or integrity program, and what advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are starting out in this space?
Absolutely. I'm going to let Eric take this one, but ultimately, anytime you're making food or something that somebody is consuming, either putting on their body or in their body, safety and quality are table stakes.
Yeah, food safety, it's not an issue until it is, right? It'll make or break any company. And we firmly believe that making food is an honor, as I'm certain probably everyone on this panel and every company out there does. And when you invite someone over to your house that you really like, you make them food. As a leader, you want the best products, you want sales, you want safety, but it's hard. There is not a silver bullet. And what you've heard from Rita and Peter and Nishat is that it has to be an ongoing, comprehensive approach to make this work. Because the day-to-day roles, what each of your team members do each day, is going to far more be at the top of their mind than food safety, unless you make it. So business and food manufacturing is about becoming aware of, navigating, and mitigating risks. It's critical as you're starting out that you evaluate what the risks are internally to your team and externally to your consumers, and proactively plan for those risks that allow for scalable growth, not just for the next couple of months or this year's, for the next 3 to 5 years. And I think when you plan it out that way, it becomes very clear and a very much more manageable tool when you see it integrated into your organization.
That's great, Rita and Eric, thank you. This is just an update on some upcoming webinars that we have, so hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. So we've done the Q&A here. Now, Amy, I believe we have 1 or 2 questions quickly for the panel from the audience, and then I'll pass it back over to you. So thank you to all of our speakers, and I look forward to getting your feedback on the next questions coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we do have a question, just more of a request than a question. We have someone looking for contact info on our speakers, but I will just say that if you had any direct questions or concerns or wanted to get in touch with any of our speakers, you can email us at pjrfsi@pjrfsi.com, and we will get your message to them as best as we can. But anyway, let's see. We've got a question here from Larry, and this one should probably go to Nishat. Larry is wondering if you could describe the definition of quality control versus quality enablement, and how you would assess the difference in your organization or other organizations.
Awesome question. I think that's something that is a fundamental question, and a lot of us ask. For me, quality control is back end, is after the fact. And quality enabler is upfront. And so I'll give you an example. As Peter mentioned, quality needs to and safety needs to be incorporated in all the processes and decisions. So as you look at your sourcing process, upfront, if you have understanding of what's the acceptable quality, and then what are the criteria that need to be there for you to ensure that you make decisions and following those requirements or standards. And then by the end, it's almost a verification process. You don't even need to control anything because the process is built in. It's the same thing in product development. You design the product in safety. The minute the product idea comes on board, like if the concept is there, you start thinking about what are the quality attributes, how I can design it in the product, versus thinking about like, okay, let everything be done and then I'll figure out how to fix the problems at the back end. So for me, that's it. And then a quality enabler is that, as Peter mentioned, quality is not one person's job. And as Eric said, everybody has to have that mindset. So for us, we're as good as all the partners in organization that make decisions and do works that impact the product quality and safety. So the more we can actually be enabler of those people by teaching them not only the what and how, but also the why, as Peter mentioned. We enable that quality mindset, which is going to make our job easier at the end, because we take the credit if the quality and safety is there, correct?
Great, thank you so much, Nishat. It looks like we have time for one more question. This one's from Alan, and this one's for Peter. Alan would like to know if you have any thoughts on basic ideas to increase brand recognition.
Are we talking about the brand? I assume the question's around the brand of your company. Probably Rita and Eric are better to answer that question. If it's around the brand of quality, because I think there is an element of the quality reputation that you have. I mean, one of the things that if you look outside of even the food industry, I mean, whether you believe it or not, but Apple doesn't necessarily make the highest quality phone, but it's got the best consumer experience. And so there's an element here around brand recognition around, does the consumer find your product to be relevant for their needs on a daily basis? So if it's a food product, I would use that parallel. Because you talk to people that use other types of smartphones, and they'll say that it's got a lot more gadgets or technology or whatever, but Apple has created this user experience around brand recognition and quality that has really carried the day, and why it's so widely used in the phone industry. And I would use that parallel with food is, what is that brand, what is that key attribute that really your consumer views as something that they need to have in that food product. It's non-negotiable and really drives that brand recognition. That to me is how you do it. And Eric and Rita, maybe you want to jump in, but to me it's, it starts with what is that consumer looking for that'll really drive that brand recognition.
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in here. I think the main thing is outside of that brand recognition, when it relates to food safety, it's how you respond. There's going to be quality issues that arise. People are going to have, sensory issues, things they don't like, a negative experience, or it might actually be a food safety concern. And the timeliness that you do that, the way you respond, the fact that a person reaches out means that they want to like your brand. They want to support you, because for every person that's reaching out when there's a problem, there's people that don't even take that time. So how do you turn that brand curious person or even a brand upset person into an enthusiast or advocate? And that's sharing the process that you're doing. Let them know what you're finding if it is a quality issue, and make them feel valued. And I think that is how you turn that initial brand love or brand enthusiast into a person that's really a brand ambassador for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up here. If there's any other questions from any of our participants, please feel free to email PJRFSI@pjrfsi.com, and we'd be happy to get you some answers or get you in touch with the people who have the answers. So on behalf of all of our speakers and PJRFSI in general, I want to thank everybody for their time in attending. If you are interested in the slides or reviewing a recording of the session, that'll be available on our website within 24 to 48 hours, and that's at www.pjrfsi.com. And I'm so glad that everyone was able to join us today. Stay happy, safe, and healthy out there, and we'll see you all on the next webinar. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.